Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Delana. Today, I still want to do a deep dive into Charlie Kirk and the shooting. I think it's just absolutely devastating. Um, I heard someone talking today, and they were really much talking about like both sides of the aisle, and I just can't believe how some people are just celebrating his death. And one of the things that they were saying is like, if it was your neighbor, would you really feel that way? And even if they voted against, what you believe in or whatever, but it would still be your neighbor, or it'd still be your uncle or your aunt, or and if something really negative happened to them, would you really be celebrating it, even if you didn't believe that what they believed in? And it just really touched home. Like when we moved here from from Canada to Arizona, we moved to Scottsdale, and the neighborhood that Charlie lived in is the same neighborhood that we lived in. And his house is right around the corner from our other house. And my kids were born and raised there in this neighborhood. So it just really hit home extra deep, because it just seems like he might seem like this fictitious character that, everybody can criticize or listen to, or he's a talking head, but he was like a real person. He's someone's child, he's someone's husband, he's someone's father, and it just really breaks my heart. This whole entire thing just I find the whole thing devastating. Anyway, so I keep saying that all roads lead back to Israel, and I made another video about this, but I really think that the bomb that they have going over here with the transgender thing is not true. And I've done a lot of videos on Israel and how much they impact the US government and how much control they have over the government. But when I was doing a deep dive into the timelines of Charlie Kirk and Israel, it's very glaring. I'm not gonna I know what I feel, but I'm kinda just wanna go over the facts. Everybody can come up with their own conclusions, but I just thought this was very, very interesting. So stick with me. I'm gonna go through the timelines and, how I think for a long, long time that Israel's been very much infiltrated through the whole entire US government. And if this can anything positive can come out of this whole entire situation, maybe there will be a highlight spotted on this, that maybe things will start to change, because I really believe you don't get to the crux of the problem, nothing will ever change. It will just keep going and going and going, and nothing will change. So, like I said, stick with me. I'm going to kind of go through this timeline here of this poor guy and his relationship with Israel. So he started really working with Apex in Israel right when he was a teenager, when he first started up the Turning Point. So way back, he was really groomed by them as a teenager, and as Israel's top non-Jewish loyalist, he started mildly criticizing them. And then he came out and said that Epstein was Mossad, which I 100% believe so. And he said no to the Iran war on behalf of Israel. And he really went to bat with Trump about not getting involved in the Iran war. And I heard that Trump and I heard somewhere, I don't know, I think I have it in an article that I'm going to bring up later, that Trump really kind of snapped back at him about even suggesting that the US not stand by Israel and go after Iran. And he also made the point of saying to Trump that he had, like, essentially, Israel has control over you. And that's where I think that when you really look at it, you can really see how much control Israel has. And then when someone points it out, that it's like you're an anti-Semitic. So, and I think that's what he was trying to say to Trump. Um, and then he literally said, "You have full blown control. Israel has full blown control over you. What's going on?" He also referred to Netanyahu as a bully. So this was all starting to happen leading up to this event. And then there's this guy, Harrison Smith, tweeted, and think about this. This was a month before the shooting. He says, "I'm not going to name names, but I was told by someone close to Charlie Kirk that Charlie thinks Israel will kill him if he turns against them." Yeah. And like I said, I think a lot of people think that way. And then also Netanyahu has also made the point that a lot of the funding from Apex in Israel, they funded Turning Point USA. And at some point, he refused to take the funding. I think he started to clue in what was going on. He's a religious guy. I think that he saw the genocide going on in Palestine and was like, I don't want anything to do with that, and kind of started stepping back. He said he became disgusted with Netanyahu, and he let anti-Zionists speak at his events. Zionist media starts attacking him, and then they start to threaten funding Turning Point USA. And the Zionist donors demand Kirk ban Tucker Carlson from all his shows. And then the donors started to cut him off and launch attacks at him. Loomer also says that Kirk backstabbed Trump. And then the Zionist FBI director fires the chief at the Utah FBI. So this was all starting to go down. And if you see, there's a quote here, or it's a tweet, and it says, Benjamin Dominic, if Charlie Kirk remains the head of the TPUSA, the right has an anti-Semitic problem that will follow them into the coming elections. And Benjamin Netanyahu, he responds, Kirk's TPUSA work has made him a multi-millionaire who owns 5 properties. He's set to lead a $108 million GOTV effort in Arizona, Georgia, and Washington. And he's saying Israel's had a stand down order and let this attack. And I had another video, and I think he was on another podcast, and he was saying, like, I don't understand. Israel is literally the size of New Jersey. How did this act of terror go on for 6 hours and they had no way of stopping it? And then he said, I walk around Israel and like you got a 19-year-old's got like a huge gun, strapped to his side. How did this go on for so many hours? So he was really starting to question that. And when I really think about why Israel is so concerned about having the right on their side, I found this video, and it literally explains it right from their mouth. Why? Because if they don't control, I think they've pretty much decided that they've lost the left, especially the woke left. So, and I think this new term is coming out. It's called the woke right. And they're saying that if the woke right comes out, then they're going to lose their grip on the United States, and they're going to lose their grip on funding Israel, and then they're not going to have the backing that they need. So have a listen to this. Like literally this guy explains it to a T, what exactly the emergency is and how important it is for them to have that right-wing support, and having Charlie have so much influence on the younger generation and so many people. They could see that. I talked about this before, that younger demographic is up and coming. They're creating their loyalty. They're the new voters. They're going to be the future. So if Charlie has so much influence on them and then he's becoming anti-Israel, what's going to happen to their support going forward? So anyways, have a listen here.
Let me be honest about a point. Anti-Semitism exists on the right as well. Voices like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, Stu Peters are unacceptable and dangerous. And we at the Republican Jewish Coalition take this threat very seriously. We work independently and in partnership with allies like Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro to call it out and root it out. We must be vigilant, always. We do not ignore it, we confront it loudly and consistently. I said one of the reasons that we are so fixated on combating the rise of the woke right in our party is a couple of reasons. Number one, first and foremost, we saw what was happening in the Democratic Party early on, and we sounded the alarms when the rise of Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, and they started getting elected. And all of our friends on the left and in the Democratic Party would say, "Oh, you're just being, you're just trying to scare everybody. It's the fringe. They're not, they're irrelevant. They're not in power. They're whatever." Meanwhile, as they turned a blind eye to that, that quote-unquote fringe has now become the mainstream and taken over the Democratic Party to the point where the Democratic Party is no longer recognizable as the Democratic Party of my parents and my grandparents. But the bigger issue, and this is something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about, and I've been talking to Prime Minister Netanyahu and others about, is the threat from the woke right is existential. And by that, I mean, if we don't combat the woke right now, and if it follows the trajectory of what happened in the Democratic Party and gets a foothold and ultimately becomes the mainstream of the Republican Party, there is no party and nobody in politics to support Israel. Israel will be alone. Without a strong pro-Israel Republican Party, there is no support for Israel. If we lose the Republican Party, Israel has nobody.
Well said. Essentially, that's exactly it. They need 100% support from the Republican Party. So without that support, they are pretty much screwed. So that's why they're holding on so tightly, like white knuckling and holding on so tightly. So it really puts perspective on how important Charlie Kirk was and that influence that he had on that generation, the younger generation, and that support for Israel. And so if he started to waver in his support, to them, that is the ultimate, because then essentially they're fucked. They're absolutely screwed without the support of the United States. So going back to the timeline, so the day before he was shot, he had a meeting with Israel, a rabbi, and it did not go well, apparently. And it wasn't that it was an argument, but I think they were saying it was more as an act of he was playing devil's advocate and saying he was trying to say, "You need to say this, this, this." And he's like, "Yeah, but what about this doesn't make sense." And he was really challenging him. And so they described the meeting as combative, but I think Charlie Kirk was really trying to get answers and not really settling with what was going on. So yeah, it did not go well. And, you know, the visitors that had before the 9/10, unusual people visited the shooter. The visitors had out of state license plates. The visitors did not give off a good vibe. Charlie was shot in the jugular, so they say, from 200 yards away, but I don't believe that. I believe, and I have pictures, I think it was 100% an inside job, for sure. And his security detail, who is also owned by a Jewish company, had a lot to do with it, and it wasn't shot from 200 yards away. That is for sure. Um, and the identified man that was in the crowd, the old guy he was definitely like, it just seemed it was all so planned. The old guy making the ruckus, then they had the guy who supposedly was the shooter get off the. It was just, to me, it was a whole entire clusterfuck, and it just didn't make any sense. And and then the shooter's off without a trace. And another thing that has really become to light too, and this guy here explains it very well. Essentially, he's saying, so the guy went up on the roof. He had this rifle. He had it in his backpack. He puts the gun together up there, takes the shot, leaves the casings, puts these messages on the bullets that are these giant bullets that would have caused more of a response, like stuff going everywhere if it actually did hit him. And then he jumps off there. He has the guy in the crowd making the ruckus, so it detracts everybody from him getting off the roof. Then he disassembles the gun, puts it back in his backpack, takes off, then reassembles the gun again, and then wraps it and then leaves it there, for them to find. It didn't make any sense. But this guy, he is on it and explains it very well. And it, like I said, it's very frustrating because I think what the problem is that it doesn't make any sense. And it's just really frustrating because it's like we're not all idiots and we can see it. It just doesn't make sense. Why would someone running from the FBI or whatever reassemble his gun and then leave it? So have a listen. Oh, I also want to show you, this is a picture of this was the last meeting he had here with the rabbi. And that was literally the day before his talk there in Utah. And have a listen to this guy. He explains it so well.
With what I just heard. I mean, I watched it. I was hoping that they had caught the bastard who shot Charlie. So we saw a video of a person jumping off the roof. It looked very legitimate to me. However, there was no rifle in his hand. Now, the Mauser does not break down very easily, incidentally, for those of you who know weapons. Something's wrong with the whole thing. They're trying to claim he removed the barrel from the Mauser and fit the receiver and stock in his backpack and barrel in his pants leg, all in 2 seconds. It is not easy to remove a Mauser barrel or index it after reinstalling and remain accurate. We are not hearing or seeing reality. And by the way, the photo of the rifle allegedly left in the woods has the barrel installed. So we're supposed to believe a guy is on the run after killing Charlie Kirk, and he pauses in the woods to reinstall a barrel, and then he leaves it for us to find, the FBI to find. I don't believe a word of it. I shouldn't do this. I know I'm putting myself at risk, but I can't take it anymore. I can't take the bullshit from this fucking government. It's lying to us. Something's wrong. Something's so wrong. It's sickening. Look at this idiot. They found the rifle and they're getting the prints. Are you stupid? Are you that stupid? Are you that dumb? The man jumps off the roof. There's no rifle there. Oh, it's in his backpack. I just told you, moron, that this rifle doesn't break down that easily. And then it's supposed to be reassembled while he's on the run. Wait, I'll stop now and reassemble it and leave it in the woods in a box, wrapped in a towel. He left breadcrumbs. Oh, and the trans stuff on the cartridges. Bullshit. Something is wrong with this whole fucking picture. I am persona non grata in this White House. I will tell you right now. I flew with Donald Trump in Air Force One. I consider him close to me. I have not been able to get near him since this administration took hold. They have thrown me out. They've castigated, thrown me in the desert. They don't want me near them. They don't want real truth tellers near them. Sean Hannity, immediately, that pimp scumbag, goes on the air and repeats the government lie, that lousy son of a bitch. How the fuck does Sean Hannity live with himself? Well, we just prove, and he had the, Sean, you know what? Kept animal. You're like a whore. Kept in a brothel. Sean Hannity, you've always been a whore in a brothel. You have hit a new low, Hannity, and something is wrong. Somebody killed this young guy, and everyone is asking who done it, and we're supposed to believe they think we're this stupid? So Kash Patel is there and he doesn't say a word, and Donald Trump's in the Yankee Stadium? What the hell is going on here? I'm just an American citizen who's been in the business of observing since I'm 18 years old, and I don't buy one word of this narrative, not one single word. So I'm going to end in a moment.
So, yeah, I don't believe it either. I love that guy. He reminds me of my dad. My dad, if he tried to say something to my dad and as if it was true and it made absolutely no common sense, he would tell you you're a fucking idiot right to your face. Are you dumb? Are you a moron? Like, doesn't make any sense. I'm with you. It makes no fucking sense whatsoever. And they just keep pushing this narrative about this trans. I don't believe it one iota, not one little bit. And it's so frustrating to see that everybody's just jumping on. Well, that's what they've told us. But the problem in today's day and age that everybody's got cell phones, everybody's got the metadata and all this crap. Everybody's just digging shit up, and it just doesn't make any sense. Anyway, so back to the timeline. So after the shooting, Netanyahu says it's Islamics are behind the shooting. And he says Israel did not kill Kirk. I had the video of him on and I was going to play it, but he literally just starts talking about something else. I think he was on either MSNBC or one of the left-wing shows, and they said, oh, everybody's saying that they think that you did it. And he's like, oh, that's ridiculous. And then he starts going off about something else. So I was going to, it doesn't even make any sense. So I didn't even bother. And then he says that Charlie wrote him a letter, very pro-Israel, and then Candace Owens is now like, well, show us the letter. Produce it. Is it a fake? And he's never produced it. So insiders confirm Kirk's war was with Israel. And it also confirms that Trump is very fearful of Israel. And I saw this clip here, and again, it explains it so well. And it makes sense. Have a listen here.
Does the President of the United States fear for his life?
Yes. Yes. I mean, obviously he fears for his life. And I was told that he feared for his life before the 2 assassination attempts, one coming within a millimeter of striking his head. I mean, let's not forget about that.
But I mean, just to clarify, he doesn't fear for his life because of Ireland.
I mean, I've been told, yes, that Israel is a major source of concern for Trump. I mean, think about it. What would happen
this
if
is
the
our
president
ally.
just if he
That's why I'm
suspended arms
confused.
to
Yeah.
if he suspended arms to a country that carries out assassinations all across the globe, that specializes in assassinations, that has an entire wing of its intelligence services that conducts assassinations, including with household goods like pagers, would you not be scared? So yes, Trump is scared. And what I learned from this source, who is a Trump insider, someone who talks to who has, who talks to people in the Oval Office, people close to Trump, is that during one of Netanyahu's many visits to the U.S. this year, some figures in his retinue, Israeli agents, placed electronic devices on emergency response Secret Service vehicles. The Secret Service found them and they reported this to the White House. These would be emergency response vehicles that would respond to an incident potentially involving the president.
Again, and I've done many videos on this about carbine and how Israelis, the ex-military intelligence of Israel is part of a company that's doing a lot of surveillance and part of the 911 system here in the US. So it all circles around. So that makes total sense to me. So this is the article that I was referring to in the timeline, essentially saying what was happening the weeks up to Charlie Kirk's death. And this was written by 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐤. So it says, in the weeks leading up to September 10th assassination, Kirk had come to loathe the Israeli leader, regarding him as a bully, the source said. Kirk was disgusted by what he had witnessed inside the Trump administration, where Netanyahu sought to personally dictate the president's personal decisions and weaponized Israel's assets like a billionaire donor, Miriam Adelson, to keep the White House firmly underneath its thumb. Charlie Kirk rejected an offer earlier this year from Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to arrange a massive new infusion of Zionist money into his Turning Point USA organization, America's largest conservative youth association, according to a longtime friend of the slain commentator speaking on the condition of the anonymity. The source told the 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐤 that the late pro-Trump influencer believed Netanyahu was trying to cow him into silence as he began to publicly question Israel's overwhelming influence in Washington and demanded more space to criticize it. According to Kirk's friend, who also enjoyed access to President Donald Trump and his inner circle, Kirk strongly warned Trump last June again, bombing Israel on Israel's behalf. Charlie was the only person who did that, they said, recalling Trump barked at him in response and angrily shut down the conversation. The source believes the incident confirmed in Kirk's mind that the president of the United States had fallen under control in the malign foreign power and was leading his own country into a series of disastrous conflicts. By the following month, Kirk had become the target of a sustained private campaign of intimidation and free-floating fury by wealthy and powerful allies of Netanyahu, figures he described in an interview as Jewish leaders and stakeholders. He was afraid of them, the source emphasized, and 100%. And what happened? So after his death, what happened? There we go. So Charlie Kirk was assassinated 9/10, and this is what happened right after his death. Epstein files were blocked. Pentagon banned from boycotting Israel on a federal level, and I've talked to this, the anti-BDS laws, in some of my other videos, but there's no other country that has laws. I think they had 28 states before, so now they're making it a federal law that bans any boycotting against Israel, and that's becoming a federal law now. And then Rubio's pushing to revoke passports of Israel critics and $650 million plus approved dollars for Israel's missile defense. And then Rubio himself is off to Israel for some photo ops, which were pretty disturbing. when I saw that. So here we go. The House passed a bill punishing political motivated boycotts of Israel in the fog of the Charlie Kirk murder. So this happened literally, I think it was the day of or the day after that his death. And I also wanted to touch on another thing, and this goes back, and this is where people don't understand that this just isn't happening now. This has been going on for decades. So I found this video from 1987. So I have this video from 1987 from some American politicians, and then I have another video of literally Benjamin Netanyahu in the 80s confirming exactly what they're saying. So have a listen here. It's just this has been going on for decades. So think about this video was taken in 1987. So we're almost 40 years later, and it's just the U.S. is just getting deeper and deeper. Have a listen.
Hello, I'm Ted Pike, and this is my wife, Alin. Today, a foreign government, Israel, operates the most powerful lobby in Congress. This is AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. Through control of Congress, Israel demands and gets nearly $5 billion annually. No elected official dares criticize Israel for fear the Jewish lobby will accuse him of anti-Semitism, the kiss of death for any politician. The president also knows what Israel wants, Israel gets. To act otherwise is political suicide. The mass media, founded and controlled primarily by Jews, manipulates the spigot of information out of which heartland America drinks. The message of this contaminated source is, if you criticize Israel, you are anti-Semitic. Be safe, keep your head down, or you are fair game for being knocked off by the Zionist shooting gallery.
As a result, our president and elected officials are slaves to political correctness when it comes to Jews and Israel. They cannot seriously criticize Israel, especially as the source of Mideast strife and terrorism. They cannot suggest an end of aid to Israel. They cannot even protest Zionist control of Congress.
So think about that. So here we are today. Out of 535 members of Congress, only 10 of them reject AIPAC money. 525 members, and think about that, that's 98.2% of Congress are paid to put Israel's interest before yours. And think about that. And now listen to Netanyahu in the 80s literally say that. Have a listen. So essentially it says Netanyahu brags about how America's under Jewish influence in a 1980 interview. So the reporter says, we don't have America with us. He says, U.S. is not a unified bloc. We have the Senate, the Congress, and the record strong Jewish lobby on our side. We have strong influence over the general support in America. America will force us to do anything. So think about that. That is back in 1980 with Benjamin Netanyahu. So fast forward to today. And who has now control over Turning Point USA? So Ben Shapiro has just taken over the Turning Point USA organization that Charlie Kirk started. And there you have it, the real motive behind Israel's assassination of Charlie Kirk. So think about that. That's really gone like full circle, and it's just very sad state of affairs, in my opinion. And, I found then this is the gun. And then I could go on about the shooting. And I saw this, there's a whole thing about who really shot him. And just, they're saying that it was this camera gun. I guess it's a cell phone that turns into a gun, but I won't play the whole video, but you can see here, this is no shot from 200 yards away. This is, I truly believe this is an inside job. I'll just start the video.
Gang violence.
So if you see here where the X is, they're saying that this is the guy that had the gun, straight line. And they're saying the way he fell was to the side, not back. So if it was coming this way, he would have went back. But because it came from the side, he went to the side. So I don't know if this was an inside job. It's just absolutely horrible. But there's multiple videos out there on the internet right now just explaining this exact scenario, and how it couldn't have possibly came from 200 yards away. But anyways, guys, I really think that, again, Charlie Kirk wasn't silenced because he spoke. He was silenced because our children were listening, and think about that. And that's what I keep circling back to too, is like, I have 3 boys, 18 to 22, all voting age, all very much influenced by the Charlie Kirks of the world. My boys love Charlie Kirk. They listen to him. They're very interested. Like, they're listening to him over, I don't even know who else they listen to. Before, I guess they were listening to Andrew Tate. They don't really listen to Andrew Tate anymore, but they're so bombarded with the extreme left and the craziness and the purple hair and all this other crap that they're 3 straight white boys, and they don't identify with anything that on the left side. So when you have the Charlie Kirk, like I said, someone who's like literally lived in our neighborhood, and just normal normal guy, talking straight up politics, and they resonate with him. They understand him. They enjoyed him. They enjoyed the way he talked. They enjoyed his debating. They listened to him. And that's the problem. That's why he was silenced, because that demographic, those boys are listening to him. And I also think that he would have been a very, very strong politician, going forward. Apparently he had like, I don't know, 47 or 40, whatever president, like he should be, going up for being president one day. He would have been an excellent, excellent president in my mind. But if he was already starting to be anti-Israel at this point, there is no way that Israel could have banked on him being a strong politician going forward without that support. And then again, here, they don't want to talk about it. It's like, and this is kind of what, if you go back to it, let's go back to this thing. It was the transgender, and it's the left, and which I don't believe. But at the end of the day, they're trying to make it something that it's not, that this is a leftist thing. But you could just change that cartoon and put Israel. Like, let's talk about it. Let's really talk about what's going on. What's really going on in Israel? What's really going on in Palestine? Why does AIPAC have so much control over the US government? Why are we so succumbed to what their whims or what they want, and we're not allowed to ask any questions? If you do ask any questions, you're an anti-Semite. So I think the whole thing is becoming very frustrating, and it will be very interesting to see going forward how how the mainstream media narrative is going to be, and how the truth really comes out. Because what the shit that they're feeding us is not true. Like, a lot of people are like, "No, no, I'm not going there." Like the Candace Owens of the world, who she was a personal friend of his, if she's gonna dive that deep into figuring out if, you know, Macron's wife has a penis, like, is she's gonna spend her life diving into that and go, like, looking through the nook and crannies to prove her point that, Brigitte Macron is a man and has a penis? Like, if she's gonna spend that much energy doing that, I can just imagine the energy that she is going to put into figuring out what really happened to Charlie Kirk. She is gonna go balls to the wall. So I'm very interested to see how that pans out, and it's just like, I think we always have to question the mainstream. I'm gonna do a whole other video on the mainstream media and how it's like a cult, um, but that will probably be tomorrow. I'm gonna do some research on that, but essentially, they're just force feeding us the propaganda, what they want you to believe, and this is the narrative, and it's not even left or right. This is what the narrative, this is the shit that they're feeding us, and I don't believe it. So, guys, let me know your thoughts. Do you believe the bullshit that they're spewing? Personally, I don't. I think it's, and I'm questioning, why does Israel have so much impact on American politics? Why? How do they get that much control? If you go, like I said, it goes back to the 80s. This has been a plan in the works forever. Why is the president afraid of Israel? Why does Israel have so much access to our security systems, the 911 surveillance? Why? How did this all happen? And how does the US get out of it? Or and if someone starts to question it, do you just get, like, shot off? You know? You can't question. You see what happens. So anyways, guys, please like, subscribe, share. I'm very interested in your thoughts and what you guys have to say. It's, very eye-opening for me to hear other people's points of view. So again, talk to you guys soon. Bye.